July 13th, 2018, Wimbledon, Centre Court. 6 hours and 36 minutes into a semi-final, Kevin Anderson falls, loses his racket, gets back up, and wins the point. Playing with his left hand, he won that match, 26-24 in the fifth set, the longest semi-final in tennis history. But he lost something bigger, and the weirdest part, that left hand wasn't luck. It was trained, prepared, built from a surgery years earlier that forced him to play left-handed for months. Because Kevin Anderson's entire career was preparation for breaking 6 feet 8 inches tall, 203 centimeters, the geometry of power, the biomechanics of failure. He was the only player from South Africa in the top 250, not one of many, the only one, carrying the weight of an entire country on a frame that was already too tall to last. This isn't a story about talent. It's a story about what happens when your body becomes the opponent. When every match is 2 wars, one against the guy across the net and one against your own machine, how many times can you rebuild before there's nothing left to put back together? That's the question Kevin Anderson answered, over and over, until his body refused to answer anymore. He wasn't supposed to make it. Not from Johannesburg. Not at 680. Not when the closest elite training center was an ocean away. The logistics alone should have killed the dream. Flights. Coaches. Courts that could accommodate someone his size. But Anderson had something most prodigies don't. Patience. He went to the University of Illinois, not because it was glamorous, because it was strategic. Under coach Brad Dancer, he became a 3-time All-American, won the NCAA doubles title in 2006, led Illinois to the national championship final in 2007, and lost to the University of Georgia in a match against a guy named John Eisner. Remember that name. But before any of that, there was the elbow. At 16, Kevin Anderson had surgery, couldn't use his right arm for months, so he trained with his left hand every day, every shot, building a backup system for a body that already knew how to betray him. That's the thing about being tall. Your joints carry more load, your ligaments stretch further, your recovery takes longer. Most coaches would have told him to quit. But Anderson's father told him something different. Success isn't the result, it's the sacrifice you make to become the best version of yourself. So he turned pro in 2007, played a challenger in New Orleans, won 13 matches in a row, took the singles title, took the doubles title, started from qualifying. That wasn't talent. That was someone who understood that the only way forward was through. And what do you do when through means your body has to break first? For years, he was invisible, ranked in the 80s, the 90s, the guy who lost in the second round, the guy commentators called the tall South African because they didn't know his name. But in 2015, something shifted. Not his serve, not his speed, his mindset. He stopped trying to be someone else, stopped trying to move like a 5'11" player, started engineering his game around what his body could actually do. At 680, his serve came from a launching point most players would need a ladder to reach. The ball dropped into the service box at an angle that was geometrically unfair, but it cost him every serve, every point, every match. His knees absorbed the impact, his back compressed, his hips carried the load. And he knew it. Anderson spent triple the time of other players on flexibility training, not because he wanted to, because if he didn't, his body would lock up entirely. In 2017, he reached the US Open final, ranked number 32 in the world, the lowest-ranked Grand Slam finalist in the tournament's modern history. He lost to Rafael Nadal, but Nadal said something after the match that revealed the truth. He called Anderson very dangerous, especially when he's healthy. Especially when he's healthy. That's the plot twist. Anderson was never healthy. Not fully, not once. Shoulder, ankle, hip, quad, knee. The list of surgeries reads like a medical textbook. By 2017, he was already managing chronic pain, but he kept rebuilding, kept showing up. Because what else do you do when an entire country is watching and there's no one else to carry the flag? Pressure doesn't break you. It reveals what you've been carrying all along. And what Kevin Anderson had been carrying was the weight of being the only one left. Wimbledon 2018. The tournament where everything collapsed and everything made sense at the same time. Fourth round, Kevin Anderson faces Roger Federer. Federer serves for the match. Match point, Anderson saves it, wins the next 3 games, takes the 5th set 13-11. The crowd is stunned. Federer, gracious in defeat, walks off, and Anderson limps to the locker room knowing what's coming next. Semi-final, July 13th. John Isner, the same guy he lost to in college. The same guy who plays the exact same way. Serve, hold, survive. The match starts at 1 p.m. It ends at 7:36 p.m. 6 hours and 36 minutes. The 5th set alone, 26-24. No tiebreak, no mercy. Just 2 giants destroying each other point by point. At one point, Anderson falls, loses his racket. The ball is still in play. He gets up, plays the shot with his left hand, wins the point. The commentators lose their minds. The crowd erupts. But Anderson doesn't celebrate. He's too tired to celebrate. He wins the match, collapses in his chair, looks over at Isner, who can barely stand, and feels guilt. Survivor's guilt. He won. But at what cost? 2 days later, he plays the final against Novak Djokovic. He loses in straight sets, can't move, can't compete, can barely finish. Djokovic said afterward it was one of the toughest matches he'd played, that Anderson's serve was difficult to read, that he was very aggressive. But the truth was simpler. Anderson had already played his final against Isner, against his own body. After Wimbledon, he became the loudest voice calling for a 5th set tiebreak. Not because he was bitter, because he knew what it cost. The match forced tennis to see the problem. And by 2019, Wimbledon had changed the rules. 5th set tiebreak at 12-12. Kevin Anderson changed the rules of tennis, but his body never recovered from the match that forced the change. 2019, elbow surgery. 2020, meniscus surgery. 2021, trying to come back, failing. 2022, ranked 107 in the world. May 3rd, 2022, Kevin Anderson announces his retirement. He's 35 years old. He stays retired for over a year. And there's a question that lingers. How long can you force your body to do what your mind demands before it stops listening entirely? But the story doesn't end there. Early 2023, Florida. Kevin Anderson runs into Roger Federer. They talk, and Federer shows him something Anderson had never seen, a different way to look at the game. Anderson had spent 20 years fighting his body, fighting his ranking, fighting alone. But Federer showed him tennis didn't have to be a war. It could be gratitude. July 2023, Kevin Anderson unretires. Returns at the Hall of Fame Open in Newport. He's 37 years old. He reaches the quarterfinals, then loses. But he walks off that court with something he hadn't felt in years: peace. Kevin Anderson's legacy isn't the finals he lost. It's the rule he changed. The players who'll never have to endure a 6-hour semi-final because he did it first. And the lesson is this. Success isn't measured by what you win. It's measured by how many times you get back up when your body is screaming at you to stay down. He rebuilt himself more times than most people try once. And when there was nothing left to rebuild, he found a new way to stand. If something in this story connected with you, if you've ever had to rebuild when everything said stop, check the pinned comment. There's something there that might make sense. And here's the question worth thinking about. How many rebuilds would you survive before calling it enough?